It was supposed to be a quiet moment of remembrance. Windsor Castle, bathed in autumn sunlight, looked like something out of a postcard. The royal family had gathered for a memorial ceremony honoring Queen Elizabeth II, a woman who once held the monarchy together with steel grace. Inside the grand hall, hundreds of guests stood in reverent silence. The stained glass windows colored the stone walls with golden hues, and everything felt heavy with legacy. But in that stillness, one small gesture shifted the entire power dynamic of the royal family. Prince William stepped forward in all black, a single pin from his mother, Princess Diana, gleaming on his coat. He didn't glance at King Charles, didn't acknowledge Queen Camilla. Instead, he turned toward a woman seated modestly away from the spotlight, Lady Susan Hussey, at 85. Her silver hair and gentle demeanor made her easy to overlook. But William knew better. She wasn't just an old family friend. She was the woman who cradled him when his world collapsed after Diana died. His godmother, his moral anchor. Without a word, William bowed. The room held its breath. A royal bowing publicly to a non-royal was unheard of. But this wasn't about protocol. This was William honoring a legacy the monarchy had started to forget. "You are the reason I still believe in this family," he said softly, just loud enough for the room to catch it. And then came the applause. Thunderous, emotional, almost rebellious. People clapped, not just for Lady Susan, but for what she represented. Loyalty, grace, and quiet power in a world that had become too loud. Camilla sat frozen. Every hand that clapped felt like it was smacking her across the face. Her pearls didn't shine quite the same. Her smile, usually plastered on for the cameras, vanished. She wasn't mentioned in William's speech. No one looked her way. The applause wasn't hers. It never really had been. She gripped the armrest of her chair until her knuckles turned white. This was the moment she knew she would never escape the shadow of the women who came before her. Diana, Elizabeth, Lady Susan. Camilla had fought her entire life to be accepted, to be respected, to shed the label of homewrecker and become the queen consort in her own right. And here she was, invisible, again. That silent rage, the bitterness simmering under layers of royal fabric, hardened into resolve. If the monarchy wasn't going to make space for her, she would carve it out herself. Within a week, Lady Susan's name was mysteriously absent from 3 major palace events. No explanation, no phone call, just silence. The press, always hungry for a new narrative, suddenly focused on Camilla's modern reign. Her office issued statements about fresh voices and new energy in the palace. Behind the scenes, orders were given to exclude Lady Susan from all public events. Royal photographers were instructed to avoid her. Aides who questioned it were met with a cold, dismissive smile, and Camilla's now famous phrase, "The mothballs must go." Lady Susan, who had spent more than 60 years serving the monarchy, suddenly found herself shut out. Her calendar emptied, her phone stopped ringing. She read about palace events in the papers like a stranger peeking in through a locked gate. She wasn't angry, just heartbroken. And while the public didn't know the full story yet, one person did. Prince William saw it all. Every exclusion, every headline erasing Susan's name, every forced smile from Camilla in the papers. He felt it boiling inside him like fire under ice. This wasn't just a royal disagreement anymore, it was personal. Camilla hadn't just crossed a line, she had redrawn it and dared him to step over. William didn't hesitate. The photo hit the internet like a match to dry leaves. Camilla caught mid-sneer as she leaned over Lady Susan during a reception, her mouth twisted in a sharp comment while Lady Susan looked down, her eyes wet and lips trembling. A royal photographer had snapped it by accident, but it spread everywhere. Social media, tabloids, primetime news. The public wasn't guessing anymore, they knew. In Kensington Palace, William stared at the photo on his phone, jaw clenched so tight it ached. This wasn't palace politics anymore, it was bullying, plain and simple. The woman who had dedicated her entire life to the crown was being discarded like a broken teacup. And now, the whole world could see it. He didn't wait. He called his advisor and gave one order. "I want to meet her tonight. No press, no staff, just us." Hours later, he walked into Queen Elizabeth's old library at Buckingham Palace, a room dripping with history and quiet authority. Camilla was already there, sitting upright in a velvet chair, her expression unreadable. She wore a dark skirt and a silk shawl, like she had dressed for battle but hoped it wouldn't come to that. William didn't sit. "You humiliated her," he said flatly. "And now the public knows." Camilla's voice was smooth but sharp underneath. "I did what needed to be done. The monarchy can't survive if we're chained to the past." "Is that what she is to you?" William snapped. "A chain? She's outdated. The monarchy needs evolution, not relics from your grandmother's reign." William took a step forward, his voice low and deliberate. "She's not a relic. She's the reason people still believe we stand for something real. Not PR campaigns, not stage smiles. Real values." Camilla's eyes narrowed, years of insecurity bleeding into her tone. "I've been mocked, hated, ripped apart in the media for decades. I earned this crown with scars. Don't lecture me about legacy." William didn't flinch. "And you're throwing it away by trying to erase everyone who reminds you you'll never be Diana, or Elizabeth, or Susan?" That landed like a slap. Camilla stood, her breath catching, hands trembling slightly as she tried to keep her voice steady. "I'm the queen consort. I don't need your approval." William's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You'll need the country's." The meeting ended with no handshake, no eye contact, just a thick silence as Camilla walked out, heels echoing down the corridor like a warning shot. Back in her private office, Camilla boiled. She wasn't going to lose to a prince who bowed to ghosts. She summoned her aides and laid out a plan. Discredit William, make it look like he was using Lady Susan to manipulate the public, and build sympathy before taking the throne. The goal wasn't just damage control, it was retaliation. Within days, the tabloids changed tune. Anonymous sources claimed William was turning his godmother into a political pawn. Headlines accused him of using her to undermine the queen consort. They dredged up Lady Susan's controversial moment from 2022, spinning it like a scandalous reminder of her flaws. But William was ready. He had been quietly collecting evidence, emails, transcripts, statements from palace staff who had seen Camilla's behavior firsthand. He even secured a clip of her making sarcastic remarks about Lady Susan during a private event. Everything she thought she'd buried was now lined up like chess pieces on his desk. When Lady Susan called him, her voice was calm, but he could hear the hurt under every word. "I never asked for this. I don't want to be the reason the family breaks." "You're not," William said gently. "You're the reason it's still worth saving." The royal council chamber hadn't been this tense in decades. Thick stone walls, ancient portraits, and towering windows bore silent witness as every key figure in the monarchy gathered at the long oak table. King Charles sat at the head, visibly aged beyond his years, his hands folded tightly. Camilla sat beside him, stiff and silent, her face a mask hiding panic. William stood across the room, flanked by Princess Anne and a handful of senior advisors, holding a leather folder packed with evidence. William opened the meeting with no small talk. "This isn't about tradition or ceremony," he said. "This is about integrity. The monarchy cannot afford hypocrisy. Not now." He placed the folder on the table and opened it slowly. In here are emails, testimonies, internal directives, and a video clip, proof that Queen Camilla systematically excluded and publicly humiliated Lady Susan Hussey. The room was frozen. The first document was an internal memo from Camilla's team: remove Lady Susan's name from all upcoming appearances, emphasize new leadership, eliminate outdated symbols. Then came printed emails: ensure the press divert focus to Queen Camilla's modern reign. Lady Susan's relevance is expired. Quote me directly if needed. And finally, the video projected on a discreet screen showed Camilla leaning into Lady Susan at a formal event, speaking in a tone sharp enough to wound. Some people just don't know when to fade out gracefully. Susan flinched in response, her eyes glancing toward the ground. Gasps filled the room. Princess Anne stood up, her voice cutting through the tension. "If this is what we're allowing inside these walls, then we've already lost." Camilla broke. She stood, hands shaking, voice brittle. "You think I don't know what you all think of me? That I haven't heard every whisper since the day I stepped into this family?" Diana's ghost follows me everywhere, Elizabeth's shadow smothers me, and now I'm the villain again for simply wanting to move forward? No, William replied calmly. You're the villain for trying to erase someone who never wanted a throne. Lady Susan gave her life to this family and never asked for praise. You punished her for being everything the monarchy used to stand for. Charles finally spoke, his voice low and cracked. Camilla, is any of this true? She didn't answer. Her silence said everything. The council voted by overwhelming majority. Camilla was stripped of all ceremonial duties. She would no longer attend public functions. She would withdraw from palace life indefinitely. Her role was now symbolic, distant, an echo of what could have been. She left the chamber in tears, her footsteps slow and quiet like a defeated queen vanishing into the background. A month later, the Kensington Gardens bloomed brighter than they had in years. Under the soft spring sun, a ceremony was held, an event organized not by the monarchy's PR team, but by William himself. He stood on a modest platform beside a seated Lady Susan, now visibly older but radiating quiet strength. A newly built gallery in her name stood behind them, filled with mementos of Queen Elizabeth's reign and stories from the people who served her. William looked out over the crowd. Justice doesn't come with crowns or titles. It comes when we protect those who protect us. He turned to Lady Susan and bowed once more. The audience rose in applause. That moment, William bowing to the woman who raised him in silence, was immortalized on the front page of every major paper. But beside her, one chair sat empty, draped in white silk, the seat that would have been Camilla's. A reminder of what happens when power forgets humility. In exile, Camilla watched from Sandringham, tears running silently down her face. She had won the crown but lost everything else.